Hi everyone, my name is Nadia, and this is the Ripples of Change yoga page. And so for today's practice, we're going to be focused on the root chakra. And so the main purpose of this practice is really to get us a sense of grounding, to allow us to come home in our bodies, and hopefully to cultivate a sense of safety in our home, in our body, in our space right now in this moment. This practice can be done whatever time of the day, but I really encourage it more for in the evenings because it's really about kind of allowing us to feel this sense of safety so that we can relax and find a bit of ease. So for this practice, we're going to start with a bit of breath work, a little meditation. We'll move our way into a more active flow, and then we'll end with a few yin or restorative poses. And so for those poses, you're going to want 2 blocks or 2 thick books, a blanket, and a bolster. And I'm currently sitting on my bolster, but if you don't have a bolster, you can use just 1 or 2 thick pillows. Maybe even a couch cushion. And so we're going to start this flow, this practice, really seated upright. So we want to find ears over shoulders, over hips. And then we'll either close our eyes or gently close the lids and keeping just a little 25% open. If you have a candle, maybe you even stare at the candle to get your attention. Time for us to focus in. And we'll start with the breath. So we're going to do a breath that ignites a sense of ease. So we'll inhale for 3 and exhale for 5. You can choose to exhale through the mouth or through the nose, whatever feels best for you. So inhaling for 3 and exhaling for 5. 2 more like that. Inhaling for 3. Exhaling for 5. Inhaling for 3. Exhaling for 5. And then bringing both of your hands to your heart center. Bringing your chin lock on, so bowing your chin just a little bit down, allowing for an elongation in the lower neck. And starting to just tune in to why you showed up for this practice and any goals, any affirmations that you have for yourself for this movement. I am home. And home for me might look different than home for you. So always make sure that throughout this practice, you monitor your resistance, doing only what feels best for you in each and every moment. Trying to ease away from any sense of judgment towards yourself, and accepting and acknowledging you for exactly where you are. You do the most for your body, you do the best for your mind and for your soul. So just breathing in this space for just 1 more breath. And then keeping the eyes closed if you already know the movements. But we're going to start just a gentle tapping. And this tapping is really to release more stress that's in the body. And this is a really great technique for maybe even just every day-to-day in the morning. And so we're going to bring our hands into almost like a C shape. And then we're going to use the edge of that C, so the fingertips, to just lightly press on the eyebrows and on top of the eyebrows. And then coming into your breath here, Finding just 2 more breaths here, allowing for any stress, any tension that you carry in your mind, any stress in the forehead, in that furry of the eyebrows, so just tap it out. And then on that next exhale, pausing for a moment and feeling the energy maybe moving around in your forehead. And then bringing the C shape for your right hand right above your head, and then just tapping on your forehead. So this is right in the center, right on the top of the skull. Sorry, I said forehead earlier, but it's the skull. As if you're literally tapping into your crown chakra, activating that energy so that it can move seamlessly down to the root. Maybe even visualizing each tap, you just send a little bit of energy directly down from the crown, down from the sky into the root. Just a few more chucks of energy, just a few more breaths here. Really trying to elongate that exhale. Last breath like this. And then on the exhale, releasing both hands to the knees. Noticing that energy. And then slowly starting to open up your eyes. We're going to do just a few circles of the hips. So bringing our chest forward and around. And then switching directions. And then we'll come to a neutral spine and starting to find some rotations in the neck. So I encourage you to first look left and right, allowing for an easing into movements of the neck, of the cervical spine. We want to be gentle with our bodies. And sometimes doing this left and right motion allows us to check in. How does my neck feel? What weight am I carrying on my shoulders? With that slow exhale, can you release that tension? And then on our next inhale, can you, if it's in your practice, start to transition into neck circles? So the root chakra, the color associated with this chakra is red. So maybe we visualize this red color, switching directions of the neck circles. But as we find points of tension in the body and in the neck, can we sense the color red to it? So can that space of discomfort be encapsulated by the calm fire of the red color, of the root chakra that reminds us that we're safe, that we are at home. And then on your next exhale, stopping your neck circles and just coming to a seated position again. Noticing that energy, maybe even noticing where in the body you have that red. And then when you're ready, we're going to move the bolster from behind us. Move it around a bit. And then we're going to find ourselves in a tabletop position. And so then from this tabletop position, if you feel any discomfort, so checking in, if you feel any discomfort in the knees, you can grab that blanket and place the blanket underneath your knees. If you feel any discomfort in your wrists, you can grab the blocks and put your hands on the blocks. So by doing that, you have the opportunity to add a little bit more height and alleviate a little pressure. So finding whatever variations or modifications or props that feel good for you there. And then going into this complete spinal movement. So we're going from cat to cow, but in this circular shape. We're activating and using every single part of the cervical spine. Honestly, we're activating and using every single part of the spine. So we've actually just combined those two motions that we did previously. Switching directions on an exhale. And really starting to bring breath and motion together here. So we inhale as we lift our head and tailbone to the sky, and then we exhale as we bring our crown to the ground. Wagging from side to side. And then from here, we're going to lift our right arm. And then we're going to thread the needle. So bringing that right arm through this space on the left side. Bringing our shoulder to the ground. So starting our practice with a twist. Holding here for just 3 more breaths. Maybe even inching that left hand forward. And then finding 2 more breaths here. And then at the end of your exhale, bringing that hand back, lifting up, coming back into that tabletop. We'll sway our hips from side to side. Or find circles, whatever movement feels best for you here. And then we'll lift the left arm and thread it through the space on the right side. Bringing our shoulders back, our hips back a bit, and then walking forward the right hand. And then once you're here, breathing into this posture. Can you notice the difference between how it felt on one side to the next? Two more breaths here. And then walking that hand back and lifting back up into a tabletop. From here, we're going to go into our first downward facing dog of the practice. And so to get into this downward facing dog, we're going to flex our feet and lift our heels up. Breathe in here. And then from this downward facing dog, we're going to bring our right knee into chest. And then drop that right foot to the ground. From here, we'll untuck the left foot, inch our toes forward a bit, so that our shoulder almost directly touches the edge of the knee. So we're in this low lunge. If this is enough for you, stay here. If you want to grab a block, you can also grab the block and lift your chest up a bit. So by allowing for a little bit of extra height, you can even grab 2 blocks. You open up a bit more in the chest. And it's okay, we're going to be sliding and pushing ourselves a little bit forward here. So breathe into that hip opening. Allow your hips to naturally push forward. And noticing when you're going a little bit too far, maybe you ease up just a little bit. Holding this for just 2 more breaths. And then on your next exhale, straightening that right foot, flexing the foot too. So we're coming into our half split. And here you have options. If you want to be high, you can continue to hold the blocks. You can also drop the blocks a little bit lower or get rid of the blocks altogether. Allowing yourself to just melt down and noticing maybe you need to back the leg up a little bit, relieving a little bit of pressure, or maybe you want to go deeper. Feeling whatever version of this pose feels best on this side of your body. And then exhaling and accepting your body for how it feels. Allowing yourself to show up authentically for each and every shape, posture, and whatever those postures bring up for you in your body. And then on your next exhale, coming back into that low lunge for a moment, and then sliding that foot back, coming into that tabletop, swaying your hips from side to side, bringing the blocks out of your way if you don't use them for your downward facing dog, and then lifting up into your downward facing dog on an inhale. This time we'll bring our left knee into chest, holding it for a moment, finding that strength, and then dropping that left foot down to the ground. Right knee comes down to the ground, and you can grab props. If you use them for one side, you might want to use them for the other. And notice how one side might feel a little bit different from the next. Maybe you practice just moving from your head looking down to looking forward. Noticing that movement in the hips here. Noticing how one side might feel different than the next. Can you send that accepting breath into that noticing? Whether the noticing is in the body or the noticing is in the mind. See, we might have different feelings for different things. Can you notice when you're having a bodily thought? Oh, I'm making space here. Oh, I'm tight here. Or this or that. And also maybe noticing when you're having a mind thought. You're thinking about the last time you did this, or you're thinking about maybe something outside of this practice. Just noticing the types of thoughts with no judgment, just acceptance. And then allowing for just 2 more breaths here, allowing for those hips to really press forward if it feels good for you. And then on that next exhale, slowly lifting the hips, pressing them back, coming into that halfway split on the other side. So flexing the left toes, allowing your chest to slowly melt down, but only if it feels good. Lowering the props or abandon them altogether if you don't need them. And then just breathing here. It's good that we take time to really sink into postures, because then it really becomes part of our muscle memory, part of our sense of safety. And then bending that knee on an exhale back into that lunge. And then pressing the knee back, coming into your tabletop, moving the props out of the way if you don't need them for your downward facing dog. And then lifting your hips up, coming all the way into a full downward facing dog. Exhaling out the mouth. We'll inhale, we'll look to the front of our mat, bending at the knees, and then we'll step both feet forward. Coming into our forward fold, our legs are at a hip width distance, our knees are slightly bent. Allowing the hands to just be heavy down, or even grabbing both elbows and swaying slightly from side to side. From here, we'll keep this bend in the knees, and we'll come into a chair pose of sorts. And so we want to have our knees bent, not completely over the toes. We're looking forward. Our hands are kissing. So you have prayer hands, and we're pressing our shoulders back. Building that heat. Making sure you use the breath to really push you through. And then we'll exhale and find a twist. So we're bringing our left elbow to our right knee. And then pressing once we're in this. And then if you want, you can even look up towards the sky, but be really gentle with your neck. You can also look towards the ground. Holding this for just 3 more breaths. And then on our next exhale, swaying down. Having our fingertips on the ground if you can, or having the hands on the shin. And just shaking your booty from side to side. And then we'll go inhale back into our chair. Finding that grounding, finding that stability in the base. Before we then exhale and find that twist. Opportunity to look up or look down. Really making sure that you're not holding any discomfort in the neck here, but rather bringing energy throughout the body. And then we'll exhale, dropping back down to the ground. Swaying from side to side, maybe even pedaling the legs a bit. And then on an inhale, we'll slowly spinal roll up, rolling the shoulders back, coming into our Tadasana mountain pose. Bringing our hands to heart center. Connecting back with that word, affirmation. I am at home in my body. And then exhale, dropping the hands down. Kind of swaying the hips slightly from side to side. We're going to do just a balancing exercise for a bit. And so for this balancing exercise, we're going to put our weight on our right leg and then activating the glutes, activating the booty, lifting the left leg, and then drop it down and switch sides. So we're going to do this motion 8 more times on each side. So in order to strengthen the root chakra, we can do a bunch of different things throughout the body. And one of them is literally strengthening the base of our body. For our feet are the roots that connect us to the ground. Last one. Dropping both feet down. And then just swaying from side to side. Maybe you even put your hands on your lower belly, maybe even on your hips. And noticing the weight of your hips as you just shift your weight from side to side. Can you notice the contraction and expansion of your muscles? The beauty and grace of the hips. And then from here, we'll literally shake our hips from side to side and shake our whole bodies a little bit, allowing for just a little bit more energy to move through us, really through the hips. Maybe even some circles here. I know it might look silly, but it's all good. Act like you're maybe in the club and no one can see you. And then we'll come back to stillness in our mountain pose. Feeling all the energy move through you. And then mainly making sure that your feet are hip width distance, or maybe even a little bit larger than hip width distance. Toes are in between the 90 and the 45 a little bit. And then from here, we're going to drop our hips down, coming into our yogi squat. And for this yogi squat, if you want a little bit more support, you can have a block underneath the tailbone, underneath the booty, which will allow you to sit up just a little bit more. Holding this for just 2 more breaths. And then we'll inhale, coming into that forward fold. Swaying from side to side a bit. And then we'll exhale, coming back into a yogi squat for just a moment, and then bringing your hands to the ground, coming into a seated position. And then when you're in this seated position, grabbing your bolsters or your props. The first more restorative pose that we're going to do is our child's pose. And so for the child's pose, you'll walk 2 blocks. If you want to make it a bit more restorative. So you'll have each block, and then you'll put the blocks maybe like 5 to 6 inches apart. Actually, that's more like 12 inches. So maybe like two blocks distance apart. And then you'll put the bolster on top. And I'll move this plant. And then from here, you're going to bring your thighs on the outside of the prop so that you start to easily lay over it. And so when you lay over it, you're really going to want to lift up in the hips first, and then walk your hands forward, and then allow yourself to lay. If you want more of a yin, so a more active stretch, you're going to want to get rid of the blocks at the bottom. And if you want even more restoration, you can add a blanket or any extra blocks that you might want on the base or underneath the child's pose. And this will add for a little bit more comfort a little bit more ease. There's no wrong way to do this wind down pose. If you need a little bit more of a stretch, that's perfect. And if you need a little bit more rest, that's also perfect. There's no wrong or right way to do your practice. There just is your practice. So allowing yourself to just sink a little bit deeper into each and every pose, using the breath here. Maybe even noticing the breath as it enters in and out the belly. Can you make sure that you're literally sending your breath all the way down your spine? Connecting back to that visualization of red little balls of warmth that wash away and cover up any discomfort. And then allowing for 2 more breaths here. And then if you're ready, slowly lifting up. Bringing your hands behind you or to your side and falling onto your booty. And then you'll bring your legs in front of you. And we'll come into a forward fold. And for this forward fold, you can keep a lot of the same props that you had from before. So you can have your legs wide, if that feels good for you. And then from this kind of wider stance, you can fold yourself over the pillows. If that setup from what we had in child's pose doesn't work for you, so if the 2 blocks and a bolster isn't high enough for you, you can change the notch of this second bolster or this second block so that it's a little bit higher. That might allow you to have just a little bit more height. And if that still isn't enough height for you, you might want to get rid of the bolster altogether and instead kind of bring those 2 props or 2 blocks on top of one another. So the first one is at its lower setting, the second one's at its higher setting, and then fold over from here. If you want a little bit more comfort from the blocks, you can also have your pillow on top. Finding whatever setting or configuration allows you to just sit in this posture with a bit of ease for a minute. And if you want an even deeper stretch here, you can bring the props farther away. You can bring the props onto a lower setting. But then once you're in your posture, you're really allowing yourself to just sit and be there. Really allowing the breath to just sink you deeper and deeper into each pose. We're halfway there. We're seamlessly moving through our practice. our practice of remembering what it feels like to be safe in our bodies, at home in our temple. Two last breaths here. And then slowly, spinal rolling up. We're going to move into our Savasana. And so for this Savasana, you have a few options. You can keep those two blocks where they are. You can put them also on the side of your knees. So if you want to keep the two blocks where they are, you want to put them underneath your knees so that when you're in the Savasana, your knees are lifted. If you want your knees to be even higher, you can use either the blanket or the bolster to go underneath your knees. And then you'll roll down onto the ground. Supported Savasana. I didn't use my blanket because if you want, you can cover yourself up in the blanket. And then once you're here, allowing yourself to just take in the benefits of this practice, to maybe even connect back with that intention that you had for this practice, that affirmation or mantra that you set for yourself. Can you allow yourself one last opportunity to soak up the warmth and restoration of that color red? May you be at home in your body. Allowing yourself to slowly just awaken your senses, noticing the weight, the heaviness of your body against the mat beneath you, against the bolsters or blocks or whatever props you're using. Allow yourself to slowly pick up and notice the sounds around you, the sounds of your home. And then slowly opening the eyes, rolling onto one side, coming into a feel position. Maybe you even give yourself a little bit of a hug here. And then when you're ready, pressing your hands, really activating your arms to come up into a seated position. We'll close out our practice by just gathering all the great energy that we just cultivated. So inhaling, rising our arms up towards the sky, and then exhaling, bringing our hands to heart center. Doing that 2 more times. So inhaling, rising the arms up, and exhaling, hands to heart center. Last one, inhaling, and exhaling, bringing the hands to heart center, bringing our hands over our heart. May you feel at home in your body. And may this practice serve as a reminder of this sense of safety that we all deserve to have. As we work to harness this sense of safety in ourselves, in our bodies, can we then use this newfound wisdom that comes from finding safety in ourselves to then spread this feeling to those that we come in contact with? Thank you so much for practicing with me. Have a great day. Ashe. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope that you got a lot out of this practice, and I hope that you can use this as a tool for good.